Hi boys and girls, in this video I'm going to be doing your math lesson today. So in your math book, if you want to open up to page 537, we are going to be talking about making halves today. I've got baby Grayson down here with me. He thought it would be fun to help me teach today, so he might be popping in and out of the camera while we're working. So if you open up to page 537, and if you want to pause this video while you are opening up to get there, you can go ahead and do that. Yeah, tell them they can pause it, and then once you get to 537, unpause it, and we'll begin. Okay, so here it says make halves. Now, just as a reminder, yesterday we started talking about equal shares, and I told you that equal shares is kind of a fancy mathematical way of saying same size parts. So when we break something up into parts that are all the same size, we say they have equal shares. And today we are going to be working on equal shares, and more specifically, when we break something into two equal parts. And we call that half. A lot of times when you're with your friends and oh, I have a cookie, let me break it in half, and you each get a piece. You do that all the time, not realizing that halves is actually part of math, and 1/2 is a fraction. When you break something in half into two pieces and you color one of those pieces, that becomes a half. So over here on the top of our page today, and you have it in front of you if you'd rather read it there, it says two friends eat equal shares of a watermelon slice. How much of the slice does each friend eat? So it says draw a circle and show two equal shares or halves. And that's what they've done here. So this is the circle watermelon, and here they're showing a circle, and they drew a line down the center to show that this is 1/2. So two halves put together make one whole, and each friend eats 1/2 of the watermelon slice. So when you break something into two pieces, we call that halves. I'm going to repeat that because I want to make sure it sticks in your brain. When we break something into two equal pieces, we call them halves. So let's go down now to, hold on, Grayson, let's show them. Let's go down now over here to where it says practice. And looking at the practice part, it says circle the shapes that show halves. X the shapes that do not show halves. So I want you to keep in mind that in order for it to be a half, the shares have to be the same size. So for example, if you look here on my whiteboard, if I had a square, and I'm going to do my best to draw a square here. It's not going to be perfect because nobody's perfect, okay? I have a square. Now, if I cut it so that I'm only giving a little tiny piece to my friend and I'm taking the bigger chunk, those are not halves. In order for it to be a half, it has to be split so that both sides are the same. So looking at number 1, you can see that they drew a line right down the middle of the circle. Both sides are the same, so you can circle those. Those are halves. If you look at number 2, you can see that they drew a line right down the center of the rectangle. Both of the pieces are the same size. If that was a candy bar and you cut it like that, you and your friend would each get the same size piece. So you can circle number 2. Those are halves. Grayson, say yay for halves. All right, now look at number 3. You see there's a line cutting it into pieces. In fact, it's cutting it into 2 pieces. However, the piece on the left side is much smaller than the piece on the right. So those are not equal shares, so it's not halves. You can put an X on number 3. Looking at number 4, you can see it's a square. They drew a line right down the center. If Grayson and I were sharing that square, his piece would be the same size as my piece. So we can say that those are equal shares. Those are halves. You can circle 4. Take a look at number 5. And before I explain it, I want you to try on your own to decide, are those equal shares? Are they halves? Yes or no? If you said no, you're absolutely right. Even though they're 2 pieces, one of the pieces is much larger than the other. So they're not equal. They're not halves. So you can X off number 5. Take a look at number 6 and decide for yourself. Number 6, are those equal parts? They are, so you should have circled number 6. Good job. Now if you will turn the page and head over to 538, and I will bring this down to 538. It's asking you to make halves and then color one of the halves. Now, one of the things that they did there for you, Grayson, where did you put my eraser? Oh, here it is. One of the things that they did for you was they drew little lines, or dots, I'm sorry. Those dots are there to help you decide where the halfway point is. So number 7, they did for you. They drew a line down the middle and colored the top half. So let's look at number 8. They put together dots like this. It looks like there's 5 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across and 3 down. So mine's not going to be perfect because I'm drawing it freehand, but you'll get the idea. Okay, and then they connected these outer dots to make the rectangle. Now, if you wanted to make equal halves, there are 2 different ways that you could cut this rectangle and then color one side of it. The first thing that you could do is draw a line right down the top, from the top of your rectangle to the bottom. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. You guys always said you wanted Grayson in the classroom. Now you know why I said that would not have been a good idea. All right, so you could come straight down the middle, connect the dots, la 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 la. And now you have 2 squares. They're both the same size, 2 pieces. Those are halves. Another way that you could have split this one, instead of going right down the middle that way, top to bottom, you could go right down the middle across like this from left to right. And now you have 2 equal size halves. So either one of those, top to bottom or left to right, as long as both of your halves are the same size. Now when you get to the circle, remember, even though it's round, you can still cut it in half. Now my circle won't be a perfect circle because I'm freehanding it, but to get you an idea, just make sure your line isn't over here somewhere. Do your best to get it right down the middle. And if you follow the dots that they have there for you, it'll make it much easier. And then color in one of the 2 halves. Remember, 2 halves together make a whole. So you only want to shade one side, because when you shade one side, that's shading 1/2 of the circle, okay? Or the shape, whatever shape it is. All right, so now let's take a look at the problem-solving problems. Number 10 says, Blake cuts a piece of paper in half. Circle the picture that shows half of Blake's paper. So there are 2 pictures there. One of them shows the paper cut right down the center. The other one shows a chunk out of the corner. Which one of those shows 1/2? If you chose the first one, you are correct. So you should have circled this shape here. Circle the picture that shows half of Blake's paper. It's that one right there. All right, number 11 says, Kaylee and Leah each eat half a square slice of cheese. So what shapes can each of their halves be? So if we have a square, let's draw out a square. And you can either watch me draw my square, or you can draw a square at home if you have a paper or a whiteboard in front of you. If we cut it in half, if we come straight down the middle, they could each have a rectangle. So on that first line here, you can write the word rectangle. And I'll write it up here for you so you can copy it onto your paper. So it's RECTAN, I'll get myself out of the way in just a second, GLE. So the first way we divided them, we made them both into rectangles. So you can go ahead and write rectangle on your first line. Okay. Now, another way that we could split them, if we didn't go right down the middle, I showed you yesterday my favorite way to split a square. If we go from top corner to bottom corner like this, and I apologize, my line isn't super straight because I've got a baby bouncing around on my lap. But you can see equal sizes, equal shares. They are halves. They are triangles. So on that second line right here, you should write the word triangle. And I will write that. Let me move myself up a little bit here. And I will write triangle for you. Triangle. So rectangle and triangle are the two shapes that you could cut a square into to have equal halves. Now, number 12 asks, can one half of a shape be larger than the other half? Think about that for a minute. Remember, I told you in order for them to be halves, they have to be equal shares. So if one half is larger than the other, are they halves? No. So for number 12, no is your answer. One half of a shape cannot be larger than the other. And your explanation for that, if you want to write it, you may. If not, you can just talk about it. In order for shapes to be half, they have to be equal shares. They have to be the same size. Okay? All right, so let's now go over to the top of the next page. It says make halves, and at the top there, it's just another review. And on your own now, I want you to go through and circle the shapes that show half. Remember, equal shares, equal portions, and then X off the ones that are not equal. And when you are done with that page, you can turn over to the next page. And there's a couple more, just like we did on the first page with the dots where you cut them in half, and you can choose the square to do triangles, you could do rectangles, whatever you want to do. And for the circle, you're going to do half circles, but you can decide if you want to go top to bottom or left to right. And then the word problem there, go ahead and do your best to read through it. It says, Andrew and Evan are coloring a poster. They each color one half. Do they color the same amount? Yes or no? So think about that and write your answer. And then for number 5 on that page, they want you to show how many ways you can draw halves in a circle. Okay, so go ahead and get that finished. If you have any questions, you can message me on Dojo. I've been hearing some adorable recorded messages that just make my day. So if you do have a question, feel free to send it to me or have mom or dad shoot me a message. Either way is fine. I hope that this lesson on halves is making sense for you and you're feeling good about it. And I look forward to seeing all of your hard work later this week when we do the mid-chapter check your progress. Thanks for your hard work, boys and girls. Bye.